folks. Welcome to Walking on the Weene Side, part of It Matters Radio. And today I am privileged to have with me Ms. Helen Hess, who is a psychiatric nurse practitioner here in the state of Arizona, where I also live. And Helen has a particularly unique specialty, or subspecialty. She's also a Bach flower remedy practitioner. And I invited her on Walking on the Weene Side specifically to talk more about the Bach flower remedies, but I'm sure we're going to branch all over the map. She also does hypnotherapy, and of course, being a nurse practitioner, she's allowed to prescribe medication in her field of specialization, which again is psychiatric nursing. So there's a whole bunch of things we can talk about. So Helen, thanks so much for joining me today.
And thank you, Ken, for inviting me. I am so excited about the flower remedies. They're so safe, and I think there should be like rescue remedy in every single emergency room in the water. So go for it. I'm excited.
What is rescue remedy?
Rescue remedy is a combination of 5 flower remedies that Dr. Batch put together for emergency situations. So they're based on the 5 attitudes he discovered most common in times of trauma. And so that's what rescue remedy is. So anytime someone's in a traumatic situation, like after a car accident, or for some people before a test, or for some people before they go to the dentist, or for some people when they have a panic attack, a rescue remedy can be very, very helpful.
Okay. Now you said 5 attitudes.
5 attitudes. Okay. So Dr. Badge developed a whole process of healing with 38 different remedies. Each remedy addresses a different attitude. So in the rescue remedy, he has Star Bethlehem, which is for trauma. He has Cherry Plum for the fear of losing control. Impatience for irritability and impatience. I want it over with right this minute. Rock Rose, which is for terror. And Clematis, that fogginess, that dissociation that happens after a trauma or during a trauma.
So he came up with the idea that these different flowers would help people to somehow address these attitudes, is either the term he used. And then that would be helpful. Am I getting the idea right?
Well, let me kind of talk about Dr. Batch a little bit. He was a physician in the early 20th century, and at that time, they were using mercury and silver and all kinds of poisons to help people. Right. And he didn't like the idea of treating people that way. He also liked treating people as individuals. He recognized, as newer physicians recognizing now, that not everybody with asthma has the same personality. Not everybody with cancer has the same personality. And his belief was that if you treat the person and if you treat the person, that negative attitude, whether it's fear or being too bossy or being overwhelmed, as I said, there's 38 flower remedies, the person returns to a calmer state of mind. And as you know, as a therapist, the calmer a person is, the better they are, both mentally as well as physically and emotionally. Mm-hmm. So he found, as a herbologist walking out there among plants, that when he was near plants, he felt better. And he began treating his people by first just collecting dewdrops off of plants and giving it to people. Imagine that. And he came up with another way of harnessing the energy of the plant. So there's no actual plant basis within it. So Ken, do you know what I mean by energy? About energy fields?
Well, I do, but why don't you?
You know, okay. So everyone has an energy field. Every living thing has an energy field. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you go into a church, you can feel one way. If you're in the middle of a busy intersection, you can feel another way. If you're on a beach, you can feel another way. Or you can walk into a room and a whole bunch of people are having an argument, and as soon as you walk in, and you say, "What's going on?" They go, "Oh, nothing." And you know very well by the way the room feels that they've been arguing.
Right.
Okay,
right,
that's what I'm talking about in terms of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, of course, at that time when he was working, that notion of fields of energy and magnetic fields and things like that was the metaphor that was really powerful for people, because it was a whole new scientific approach.
Well, he was a student of Hahnemann, and Hahnemann was the founder of homeopathy.
I was going to get the homeopathy.
Yeah, there you go. And so originally when he attempted to prepare these homeopathically, they didn't work. Homeopathic is like treats like. So if something creates redness, if you prepare it homeopathically, it cools down redness. Whereas this is the healing vibration of the plant. So it's a direct transmission of the energy rather than the reversal of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were saying, by the way, before we go further, let's just, in England, and I'm sure in many other cultures, and we know in many other cultures, the use of botanicals for for health purposes was very common. And one of the things is since your field is psychiatry and my field psychology, one of the things we know, for example, is St. John's wort was being used in England back into Shakespeare's time, at the very least, for depression.
Right.
It has some negative side effects, mostly having to do with eyesight effect of you keep on St. John's wort, and especially in a climate like Arizona where there's a lot of sun, you develop cataracts. But it is a very effective antidepressant. And obviously aspirin is another botanical original. And even penicillin. I mean, penicillin is started out as a naturally occurring bread mold.
Right.
Yeah. So, and many cultures have this. So he was, I mean, because I want people to understand that when this Dr. Edward Bach went out and started thinking about this, he wasn't coming from cuckoo land. He was really aware that nature does have tremendous positive and potentially negative effects on human beings.
Correct. Well, that's the difference between using a botanical and using the Bach flower energy medicine or the Bach flower remedies. Because a botanical has those drug-drug interactions. As you know, St. John's wort interacts with a lot of different medications and has tremendous side effects. With vibrational remedy, if it's not the right vibration, it doesn't have a negative side effect. You know, it just doesn't create a change. The change is if it's a negative attitude that someone's having. For example, if someone's terribly overwhelmed and you give them the flower remedy elm, they are able to calm down and then take one step at a time and complete whatever it is that they need to complete instead of just being like lost in a tizzy. So the remedies are not, that's what I loved about using them within my psychiatry practice, is I did not have to worry about these interacting with the chemicals I was using. So it made it much, much easier. And then, like we were talking about, well, you're talking about using things for depression or other pharmaceuticals or herbs. That's also what's different about the flower remedies, is that there's not a remedy for depression, and there's not a remedy for anxiety. There's a remedy for different kinds of fears. There's remedies for different kinds of worries. There's remedies for not being able to make a decision. So it's more of a therapy kind of model. You have to listen to people differently. And it was one of the things that ended up happening in my psychiatry practice is I would make people a set of remedies, and they would work right away because I test them in my office so I see that they're responding. And they go home with their treatment bottle. This is what a treatment bottle looks like. And they would take 4 drops 4 times a day. And they would, often some people would come back and say, well, the flowers stopped working. I went, what do you mean? Well, I'm feeling anxious. Okay, what do you mean? Are you still guilty about such and such? Well, no, I was never guilty. Oh, are you still having problems making decisions? Oh, no. So all the attitudes, the reason why I chose the remedies were cleared is that different attitudes came up that had to be addressed. Mm-hmm. However, they had the general word anxiety. And I found more and more as I've been working with the flowers, I hear people differently because I'm defining which remedy they were talking about.
Uh-huh.
Very fun.
So now, you held up a bottle there. And again,
I'll hold it up again. Yeah. This is a 1 ounce bottle.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I
want to make sure the audience understands you're not holding up a flower.
No.
He went out Dr. Bach went out and he walked out and he found that the flowers.
He found the flowers. This is what the remedies look like.
The remedies now are, and there's not little pieces of flower in there.
No, there's no flower in it. It's the energy of the flowers. So the one most people recognize would be this rescue remedy. It's in lots of even pharmacies, regular pharmacies now, not just at the
Holistic
natural kinds of pharmacies. It's the energy of the plants. What he came up with was taking the flowers and putting it into spring water in full sunlight for 4 hours, which potentized the water, and then he preserved the water by mixing it half and half with brandy. Now understand, this is the 1930s, and brandy at that point in time was a preservative.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the only biologically active ingredient in the remedies is brandy. The attitude part is about the vibration. So you take the water, the vibration from the plant, he mixed it into a mother tincture. They then diluted it more to make what we call the stock bottles. Understand your body is mostly water, right? 75% water. So we're taking the vibrational energy of it and moving it from one form of liquid to another form of liquid to our body, which is mostly water. So are you very familiar with Kirlian photography? Do you know what I mean by Kirlian photography?
No, go on.
Okay. So in Russia, maybe in the 50s, 60s, they found out that they could take pictures of energies. Mm-hmm. And there is one specific book that I don't have with me where they have each of the flower remedies, the energetic signature of each of the flower remedies, which is different. So it's the energy of it. Mm-hmm. And then I guess there was this Japanese scientist who was taking water from the dam and then writing words on the outside of the bottle. And so it came up with different crystalline formations depending upon what the word was on the outside of the bottle. So that's the energy of just a word. So these are the energy of healing plants. If you actually ate the plant, it wouldn't harm you because they're just healing plants, but it's the energy of them. It's not the biology of them.
Right, and the energy is captured by doing what?
The energy is captured in water in the sunlight.
So you take some of the flour.
You take the flour at its peak, right. Put it in a bowl of water, mm-hmm. Leave it in the sunshine for 3 hours in the afternoon. This is done in England at the Batch Center in England, and then they mix it half and half with brandy, and then from that they make the stock bottles. And the stock bottles are what I use, mm-hmm. and what people can purchase over the counter.
And we'll be right back after this.
Flower essence therapy has actually been around for hundreds of years, but in modern times it was brought to light in 1930 by British physician Dr. Edward Bach, hence the name Bach Flower Remedies. Now, flower essence therapy is obviously not based on traditional scientific research, so if orthodox medicine and prescription drugs are more your cup of tea, I strongly suggest that you hit the back button now and find another video. But if you're curious and would like to broaden your horizons, then keep watching. So what exactly are the Bach Flower Remedies? As a practicing physician, Dr. Bach began to see disease as a physical manifestation of unhappiness, fear and worry. He therefore began to look to nature to find healing alternatives. Over a period of years, he found 38 healing flowers and plants that with the right preparation became the 38 Bach Flower Remedies. These remedies are enough to remove all negative emotional problems. Sounds like a whole bunch of quackery, right? Well, I myself was quite the skeptic when I was first introduced to flower remedies. But being the adventurous soul that I am, I thought I'd give it a go. One of the 38 flower remedies is called hornbeam. It is specifically for people that tend to procrastinate when forced to complete a task that they don't want to do. At the time I needed to complete my tax return, and boy do I hate doing that. So I thought what an excellent time to get my hands on some hornbeam and get rid of some emotional resistance. Now there are two ways to take flower remedies. You can place a couple of drops directly underneath your tongue, or a more economical solution is to place 4 drops in a bottle of water and drink it throughout the day. The more frequently you drink from the bottle, the more effective the flower remedy becomes. To this day, I can't really explain what happened, but I suddenly found myself doing something I would ordinarily detest, and I completed the task with the greatest of ease. If anything, I was more than happy to do it. But it didn't stop with doing my taxes. I then found myself doing the housework, which is another task I normally avoid. So could all of this have just been a placebo effect? Normally I might agree with you, but I hate doing my taxes so much that I would rather eat a bowl of worms if it meant that I could avoid it. Something that day definitely shifted in me after taking the hornbeam. I've always believed that just because you don't understand how something works, you shouldn't dismiss it entirely. Many people have also tried flower remedies on their pets. Just like humans, our pets are emotional beings and can suffer from things like anxiety, stress, jealousy, abandonment issues, and even depression. Once you choose the right remedy, simply place a couple of drops in your pet's water bowl and observe the emotional shift take place. Unlike humans, animals are not capable of judgment, and therefore the positive effects that the flower remedies will have cannot be a placebo effect. Flowers do actually resonate and have an energetic effect on the emotional system. As a matter of fact, we ourselves are energetic beings, and negative emotions are just a vibrational state that can be corrected. I have now used flower remedies for over 20 years, and they have helped me through some stressful and traumatic times in my life. Now, it is okay to be skeptical about this information, but I do suggest that you try it for yourself first before posting a negative comment on this video. By the way, there is a flower remedy for people that get great joy out of criticizing others. If you would like to find out more about the bark flower remedies, visit their website and see which one of the 38 remedies can help you have a more balanced emotional state. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button now and check out all of my other health-related content. Bye for now.
Welcome back, folks, to Walking on the Weene Side. We're talking with Helen Hess about her work as a bark flower remedies practitioner. And Helen, you mentioned before the break that the remedies, the stock remedies, are mixed with brandy. Now, as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, obviously you know as well as I do that for an awful lot of people, even a small amount of alcohol, even a couple of you're putting 4 drops in somebody's mouth, 2 drops of alcohol, and even that can start triggering, a return of alcoholic behavior, etc. How do you get around that?
Well, there's a couple of ways of getting around it. First, I always ask people, because alcoholics are people who have been alcoholics in the past, identify their sobriety different ways. So there are some who a little bit of alcohol is not a problem. For others, just the idea that there's 2 drops of alcohol in that 1 ounce of bottle is enough to break their sobriety. And I don't want to break anyone's sobriety. So for a while, what I was doing was just having them put it on pulse points, because you don't necessarily have to take it by mouth. You could just put it on your pulse point, on your wrist or your elbow or up in here. And several years ago, the Batch Center came up with a set of glycerin-based remedies. And so I went ahead and purchased a full set of the glycerin-based remedies. See, right here. So that if I'm working with someone who that's a big deal, and it is a big deal to maintain your sobriety, I can use the glycerin-based remedies, and I don't have to be concerned about the alcohol. Now, over the counter, there's only 3 different ways people can get glycerin remedies. One is the rescue remedy comes as rescue pets or rescue children, and it's still rescue remedy. It's just as glycerin base. And then they made 2 children remedies, which are still the glycerin base that you can buy over the counter. One is larch, and the other is clematis. And these 2 are glycerin-based. So those are the only 3 that you can get that are glycerin-based over the counter at one of the, like I said, natural food stores. So, yes, thank you so much. That's how I handle people who identify alcohol as a problem for them.
Now, we're talking about 4 drop doses 4 times a day, I think you said. And you're taking those drops, and what are you doing with them? I mean, you mentioned you can put them on your bottle.
So this is a 1 ounce bottle.
Right.
It's filled with spring water. And then I'm choosing 2 drops of each of the remedies, because usually people have somewhere between 3 to 6 remedies that I'm putting in here because they have different attitudes. Then they would take this and they would put 4 drops right in their mouth 4 times a day.
Not under their tongue or anything. Just
No, they don't have to be in the tongue. No, they don't have to. They don't have to do anything special. They just have to get it in.
Do they swallow, or do they just leave it there?
They can swallow it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
whenever it gets into the body, it's going to diffuse into the body.
It mostly has to touch a skin surface. So like when I'm working with pets, because the flower remedies work with pets as well, I can either have them put it on their treat, have them eat it from their food, have them lick it from my hand, depending upon the pet, rub it on their ears or their paws. Or like for my cats, when they've lost one of their lives, and they come and hide in the corner, I will spray them because there's no way they're going to let me touch them at that point in time. So then they're inhaling it through their upper respiratory system because it's in the air.
Now,
there's ways and ways.
All right, yeah. Now, when you've done this with pets, you've done it with children, you've done it with adults, and clearly you feel strongly that it works. And I'm enough of a clinician to appreciate a good clinician's beliefs. I think we learn more from one another than we do necessarily from reading journals and articles. But I am wondering, have people done any double-blind studies, things like that, to demonstrate the efficacy?
Well, the challenge about doing a double-blind, placebo-controlled study is that these are such individually chosen remedies. You have to choose them based on who that person is right now. So even though I might choose a set of remedies for you right now, what you need next week would likely be different. There are a few studies out there that have been mostly done in Europe, where they have done larger clinical trials. And none of those were double-blind placebo. The closest ones that were done sort of scientific in the United States were done for test anxiety, and they were using rescue remedy or not using rescue remedy.
When you say using rescue remedy or not, what would the...
Yeah, so rescue remedy was the active ingredient, and the water or something was the placebo.
Water with some brandy or whatever in it to make it...
But you kind of lose a little bit there, because not everybody has the same kind of test anxiety.
Yeah, but if you have a large number of people, and you do this,
right,
you should show up some difference between the groups. So was there a difference?
Oh yeah, there was a difference in the group, and I think if I remember her name right, her last name was Sirkin, Sirkin, and she was the one who did the rescue remedy studies. My big thing with the remedies is that when you're working with the pet, if it's placebo, if I truly believe it, then the pet will believe it, and they'll walk out the door, right? They'll do what you want them to do. So I had this dog, and I got the dog to take me for a walk. And I could put her in the car, and we could go for a walk at the park, but she wouldn't leave the house and take me around the park, walk around the neighborhood with me. So I gave her rescue remedy, and nothing happened. I gave her Mimulus, that's a fear flower, nothing happened. I went through all the fear flowers, nothing happened. And so I thought, okay, what's going on here? I went, okay, she is a collie. The job of a collie is to keep me protected, which means she's suspicious of the outdoors. So I gave her Holly, walked outside, that was it. That's all it took. I had to find the right remedy. And that's when I'm working with people one-to-one, I'm listening for a very clear theme of what we're talking about. And then when I'm working with them one-on-one, this is what I do. Is I have a cup of water, and I put the remedy in a cup of water and have them take a sip. And what's fascinating is that when I choose the right one, then what they're talking about, they either notice a change in how they feel, or what they're talking about changes. The theme of what they're talking about changes. And so we go down the rabbit hole in front of me with this little sip at a time. So, of course, I believe it, and as you know, placebo is. What is it? Placebo is to be 50 to 60%
belief-based.
effective.
But Okay, but you've seen enough difference, for example, with the dog, that
Right.
you don't buy that it's all placebo. And clearly,
Right.
clearly,
Well,
dogs are not particularly given to
well,
placebo
but
effects.
can I tell you another story?
Of course,
I had a
please.
gentleman come see me. He was wanted to be on medicine for depression because his wife had died, and he was grieving his wife. I said, "Can I give you these remedies?" He says, "Oh, no, I don't believe in remedies at all. No." He started talking about his pets and how his pets were going to where she used to be and how they were really sad and missing her. I said, "Can I give you a set of remedies for your pets?" And he said, "Okay." So I gave him a set of remedies for his pets. He came back a couple of weeks later for his med check. He says, "Can I have some?" I said, "Why?" He says, "I gave it to the pets and it took care of them. I want some too." So there's these little stories that have happened because I was able to use it in my clinical practice, because I had my own practice that I could run and do whatever I do it my way, and adding this or hypnosis. I was able to see people came back to see me 2 to 3 or weeks or a month later because of the med check, and I was also able to check how were they responding to the flower remedies. And so I have lots and lots of clinical experience in working with the people real time with the remedies.
Now, I take it that the remedy effect is fairly quick because you're talking about, for example, with a dog, or a cat, you're giving them the remedy, and then. So, how long does it typically last? Like that collie. How long would the collie be able to go out for a walk before?
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with her anymore, but I've had her for so long. And I don't remember how long I gave her the remedy.
Mm-hmm.
The way the Bach Center in Britain recommends is that they take the remedy 4 drops 4 times a day for about 3 weeks, and that's how long the remedy lasts. And then you reassess what's different.
Uh-huh.
What's different, and mostly it's usually different because it kind of like peels off the top layer. So like with psychodynamic theory, we're supposed to go down for the underlying cause. You remember that from your training.
Right.
With Bach or remedies, it's about how are you right now. It doesn't matter that you were sexually abused when you're 3 years old. But that's not what the issue is right now. The issue is that you don't trust people.
It's about the immediacy of how you're experiencing the world and your own energy in it.
It's how you are right now, and
we're going to have to take a break.
Okay, sir.
And we're going to be doing that. But while we're taking that break, I'm just going to be asking people because. When I first ran into this whole idea of the Bach, and I started to think about myself and my own flower and botanical experiences. Now, I'm not eating the flowers, etc., but smelling. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask everybody, while we're doing this little break, I hope you'll think about the smell of a particular flower or plant that you personally remember out of your life as meaning something that affects you and your emotions and your way of thinking. welcome back to Walking on the Wean Side. So Helen, I'd asked our audience if they would focus in on what perhaps they could remember as an odor, because we're not talking about aromatherapy, only how all of these things integrate into one, that we connect. We are a whole, and we are part of a larger whole of the universe. But for me, I have to tell you, if I walk in to a pine grove, I am immediately transported to a place of great relaxation. And obviously, we're talking here about another one of your specialties, which is hypnosis.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I thought I'd invite you because I know you have, and hey, wait, commercial message here, folks. Get out your pencils. I want you to write this down. Helen has 2 websites, and I want you to be able to get a hold of her. And the 2 websites are, first one is www.bachflowersarizona.com. Now, Bach is spelled B-A-C-H, flowers, F-L-O-W-E-R-S, and Arizona is spelled out, A-R-I-Z-O-N-A. So it's www.bachflowersarizona.com. And her other one is about the hypnosis, okay, which is www.hesshypnosisheals.com. Hess is spelled H-E-S-S, and that is Helen's last name. Hess Hypnosis, H-Y-P-N-O-S-I-S, Heals, H-E-A-L-S.com. www.hesshypnosisheals.com. And I hope that you have taken those down and that you will check those out. And now back to hypnosis.
Well, thank you very much for that commercial, Ken. I really appreciate it. I want people to be able to get better and be able to take care of themselves. The flower remedies, that's what Dr. Batch imagined, was people would have their own set within their own home so they could take care of themselves. With hypnosis, as I work with people, I also teach them self-hypnosis and ways to be able to learn how to take care of themselves. It's not about having them come back to see me every month like it was with medication. I want people to be out there and functioning at a higher level. Absolutely. So thank you about that hypnosis. That was a wonderful image you had, so that I could use it if I did hypnosis with you to send you back to that pine forest so that we could do whatever we needed to do with that metaphor.
Actually, I use it in self-hypnosis quite often.
With the flower that came to my mind when you were talking about that was honeysuckle. Because when I was a little girl, there was honeysuckles, and we used to take it and suck on it. And then the flower remedies, honeysuckle is for the past and being able to let go of the past.
Now,
yes,
honeysuckle grows in England.
Yes, these things, most.
And it grows here. But not all of the flowers, well, of course now people transport, but they are not native. A lot of the flowers that are used that you find in England are not native in this part of the world. And by the extension, there are flowers here that are not native to England. So I was wondering, has anybody tried developing remedies using any of the flowers here from the States?
There are people who make flower remedies that are not batch flower remedies, and there are several in Arizona, and I have not studied them. One of my purposes in staying with the batch flower remedies is about Dr. Batch's theoretical framework of spirit. And he felt that the negative attitudes, like there's a remedy pine for guilt, or there's a remedy for vine for people who it has to be their way and their only way. People are really stubborn. And these negative attitudes come out as a indication that they're disconnected from their higher self, or they're disconnected from spirit, And so the intentionality behind the flower remedies is about reconnecting the people on a spiritual level with their inner wisdom, whether they see that as God or higher self or spirit or however. And because I'm so spiritually based in my practice, I have just stayed with the flower remedies because I know that was the intention underneath the flower remedies, is about reconnecting them with their own inner wisdom. And so within all that I do, I also teach a class called Dynamic Mastery, where we look at the brainwave patterns and we link brainwave patterns up to the mental, emotional, and physical levels of us, so people can begin to understand how they work as human beings. So we were talking about the smell, and I thought we were going to aromatherapy. On a physical level, the only sense that is fully myelinated at birth is the sense of smell. And so it goes deep within the limbic system. Of course, for people who are very sense-oriented with the sense of smell, it takes them right straight down into those deeper memories at a deeper emotional area. So it's really wonderful that you had such an excellent association with the pine forest.
By the way, folks, in case you don't know what the word myelinated means, it means the nerves have a sheath around them that helps conduct the impulse. So that means that your sense of smell, your sense of scent, is the one that is most developed to interact with the world when you're born.
Right.
The others come along, but you won't fully smell.
Yeah, as the brain develops. And the nervous system. Which brings me back to what we were talking about on break, about the brain-gut connection.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that within the gut they have the serotonin and the norepinephrine neurotransmitters, as well as with the brain. And so there's a lot of science out there about what's first. Is it the brain, or is it the stomach, the gut that's really directing things? And I was so curious about that. I went and looked at the development of the fetus, and early on, they're right there. They're right next to each other before it grows and differentiates even more. So yeah, we can go off onto all kinds of tangents here, Ken.
Well, one of the things we were talking about on break was the holistic kind of approach. And it's very interesting because I think that both you and I look at life. Yes, there's the reductionist stuff. There's the, you do the blood tests and those things. But then you see the human as a whole. And then you see the human not just as a whole, but as connected to more than in the environment, how we resonate with the environment, and in the spiritual. Yeah. And that you don't have to be trapped at just one level at looking at life.
Well, after seeing thousands of people for chemistry, neurochemistry, there's no two people alike. And even the genetic studies that we both studied in school, there's not 100% concordance, even with identical twins. Even if they're raised in the same environment, there's something environmentally different between those two identical twins. And that has to do with that genetic expression. So my clinical work has been based on what do I need to do for this person? Do we need to be working from a physical level? Do we need to be working from a mental level? Do we need to be working from an emotional level? And do we need to be working from a spiritual level? It's what does that person need?
Right. You add one more on an environmental level.
Right. Well, it's nature and nurture. So nature is the gene, or the gene itself, and nurture is whatever the environment is. The environmental could be as subtle as their mother's attitude during either childbirth or during the growth of the fetus. And you know about those things.
Well,
There's a really fun
I just saw one the other day about the use of titanium white paint and the increased likelihood of type 2 diabetes. I mean, we just have to be aware that we humans, we're part of this interconnected world.
Right.
And, in us we have bacteria that are independent living organisms living in us.
Yes. Right.
And that it's all this multiple level, and that's why I love, Helen, when people like you who are part of that holistic view come on Walking on the Wean Side, because I know that our audience is a growing awareness that we have to view ourselves, our world, our society, our planet, our solar system, our galaxy, that it's all interconnected. And so, folks, I'm going to remind you that our guest today has been Miss Helen Hess, psychiatric nurse practitioner, and also Bach Flower Remedies practitioner. And you can find her websites, www.bachflowersarizona.com, and then in the hypnosis field, www.hesshypnosisheals.com. Helen, thank you so much for Walking on the Wean Side.
And thank you. I appreciate it.